Hello, everyone. I do hope you're keeping well. Welcome back to Dental Jobs Diaries, episode 9. I'm delighted to have our new guest on the show today, Dino Loizides, who will be talking around everything Clyde Munro. You're laughing because I know we've just had that conversation. Go on.
Yeah, you got it right the first two times, but it's fine. It's Loizides, but as I said before, I've had worse.
We
So
can
it's all good.
There's no issues. So today, Dino, you're going to be giving us the inside scoop with Clyde Munro as a VT trainer. So for the listeners and everything else, what is that? What's your current role within Clyde Munro?
So within Clyde Munro, I'm an associate. I'm the principal dentist at Dental Care Perth. But as part of my role here within the practice, I've been a VT trainer for the last 10 years continuously. And I've been a VT trainer for quite a bit of time before that. When Clyde Munro took over, when I sold out to Clyde Munro, we had agreed that I would continue in this role as a VT trainer. And that's what I'm doing just now.
So can you kind of share an overview of Clyde Munro's commitment and also your commitment to sort of dental education?
So commitment to education, both myself and Clyde Munro, and I think most dentists really as VT trainers, we appreciate and we realize that dentistry and your training in dentistry doesn't finish on the day that you get your BDS. In fact, that's when your training really starts. And dentistry changes almost on a day-by-day basis, especially these days with new techniques, new methods, digital, etc. So we need to have that continuing education. And if you put the foundations in early enough, then people that embark on this journey will continue education become second nature to them. It's not a chore. It's not something, oh God, I have to do it. It's always been part of their routine. So with us VT training, now that particularly with Clyde Munro, is especially upstairs within my practice, we've got the training center, which is a massive investment and build and commitment from Clyde Munro. We have 8 phantom heads, we've got a lecture theatre, we've got a live surgery. So again, we can tap into that to train and expose VDPs and new grads to all this new stuff that's coming online. And again, my role within that is to provide support both to Clyde Munro and to my VDPs. But again, within the wider group, Clyde Munro, himself has got sort of 70, 80 odd practices. So that's a lot of dentists. And quite a few of those dentists are VDP trainers. So again, we've got this massive pool of knowledge and experience that we can tap into. And previously, you couldn't really access everybody's knowledge. You could not gain from the collective hive, as it were. Now, because everything's built in-house with Clyde Munro, we've got all these practitioners, it all comes under one roof. So I can share my knowledge with a VDP in another practice, in another region. We can bring all the VDPs to the center here. We can bring VDP trainers. So yes, it's a great opportunity. And it all comes from the fact that both myself and other VDP trainers have this commitment for further education. And one of the things that Clyde Munro seems to have brought into, when I had the initial conversation with Jim about selling my practice, we were fortunate in as much as the building that I had, we have this massive area upstairs that was begging to have something done with it. And my vision when I first bought into the practice, when I had the practice, was to convert this area into a training center. Unfortunately, time, money, the usuals prevented me. But Jim saw that vision, understood it, and said, actually, do you know what? This is a really good idea. Let's run with that. So a couple of years down the line, 2.5 years down the line, we have this amazing training center that we can all tap into. And that is, I think that is unique to Clyde Munro.
I think it's fantastic, to be able to speak with somebody who's quite passionate about training, such as yourself, but also equally, the investment that Clyde Munro put into training.
Yeah.
But also Jim seeing that vision as well, which is fantastic. So you mentioned you sold out to Clyde Munro.
Yes.
How long ago was that? And was it a simple process? And what kind of made you do that?
So I sold out to Clyde Munro. Well, the ink on the paperwork dried in January 2020. I started talking to Clyde Munro just before the pandemic.
Right. Okay.
And one of the reasons I had sold out to Clyde is I moved my practice from your bog standard Scottish practice, tenement building, 2 flights of stairs, into this purpose design center that we're in now. And by the time I had done that, that took a lot of energy out of me, took a lot out of me physically, mentally, as well as financially. And I was getting to the point where the practice just needed more nurturing. It needed to be carried on. And I was fortunate in as much as Clyde Munro showed interest, we had the conversation. And again, Jim and I, we both seem to be coming from the same perspective, and we both seem to want the same thing for the practice. And it seemed like a no-brainer. And he saw my vision. He understood the vision that I had for the practice, this training center upstairs. And we kind of clicked, and we went through from there. So the initial process, that was quite easy. Subsequent to that, the pandemic happened and everything kind of stopped. And again, I kept in contact with Jim and we got things going. And yeah, we carried on. They were very supportive throughout the whole period. And then once everybody started back, we just picked up where we left off. The biggest headache that I found was once you decide to sell, it's not like going into a shop and buying something. It's not like going and buying a car. It's not even like taking out a mortgage. The amount of hoops that one has to jump through, due diligence, paperwork, and what have you. I mean, but you're talking a fair amount of money. So people need these things to be done. Would I do it again? Probably, yeah, I would actually. I wouldn't not do it. So yeah, and so far, I've been very happy. And Clyde Munro as a group haven't really interfered with the way I run my practice, with the way I run my surgery, with the way I look after my patients. They're very hands-off in that way, but they're hands-on in as much as supporting my team, supporting what I need to do. So that's been pretty good.
Fantastic to hear. I know we mentioned a moment ago about a new program that's been rolled out. The program being the best foot forward. Could you kind of go into more detail on that and what that is and how that helps people?
So Best Foot Forward is the program that's been developed with Clyde Munro to continue supporting current VDPs in parallel to the training that they're getting from the regions. So each VT practice, each VDP, they have study days that they need to attend. I'll get it later. That they need to attend regularly. And there's a very structured program. They've got, I think it's 22 training days, 23 training days that they need to attend. And the Best Foot Forward is a program that runs in parallel with that. And what it's doing is it's introducing the VDPs to other methods, other techniques, stuff that they wouldn't ordinarily get exposed to through the VDP program. So it's a complementary program to it. The other advantage that I think it gives is each region, there's 10 or 12 VDPs within each region. So South East Scotland, North East Scotland, Dundee 1, Dundee 2 schemes, etc. Plus what they're doing on the West in Scotland. And each group has half a dozen VDP trainees. And they tend to stick together within their training groups, which is fine. The Best Foot Forward allows these individual groups to come together again. And again, you've got a bigger exchange of ideas. You've got a bigger collective hive. You've got people to bounce off ideas off of each other. And I mean, again, it's a way of getting people together. One of the things about dentistry is you can become, even if you're in a big practice, you can become very lonely and isolated. And again, introducing VDPs to this collective training early on in their careers, it means they're more comfortable about being with other people, exchanging ideas, and having problems and discussing these problems with somebody else. Because we all have them. But I come from a generation of, if you have a bad day, do you know what? Bottle it up, box it up, move on.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy for anybody. We know this. So it's all about bringing people together and sharing ideas, sharing information, and much, much more importantly is supporting them, because at this stage in their careers, depending on how you want to phrase this, but they don't know an awful lot. And that inexperience sometimes shows. And sometimes they're afraid to make mistakes. And again, we need to help them, support them, and say, look, it happens. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm your trainer. This is why I can help you. And again, if you have a bad day, if you fluff up a restoration, a filling, then you go to your study day, and then you're chatting to your colleagues, or even at the best foot forward, you're chatting to your colleagues and say, oh, I did a filling and it fell out 10 minutes later. And then somebody goes, oh yeah, that happened to me. Oh, and that happened to me. And you go, actually, you know what? I'm not the worst dentist in the world. So it's a really good thing to bringing people together.
The thing that really sort of stands out for me with many of these podcasts that we've done, Dino, is that there's a kind of a recurring theme of support that you guys, provide your graduates, your trainers, your dentists, and it's fantastic to hear. And then anybody listening to these podcasts will hopefully learn and listen about a company that actually does support people and progress their careers as well. I mean, it's quite reassuring for people listening, I have to say.
No, it definitely is. And again, the more people that we get together, the more communication we have about things, the better it is for everybody. Absolutely. It's almost a no-brainer.
As both, as you mentioned earlier, as a dentist and as a VT, how has your experience been working with VT students within Clyde Munro?
So varied.
Yeah. I mean, I can see your screen, so
I'll try to be diplomatic. It's like everything else. In terms of the individuals that I've had the privilege of training, there's been a huge variety in their skill set, in their personalities, in their abilities. And when you go through the first round of interviews, it's very difficult to judge what you're going to get. You get a gut feeling about somebody, but until they start working with you, you just don't know. I've been fortunate in the vast majority of my VDPs. They've been really good. We've gotten on like a house on fire. My interview techniques is probably a little bit unorthodox because I very rarely ask questions or don't focus an awful lot on their clinical abilities and their clinical problem solving set. I want to know if you and I will get on. And that's what I base my interviews on. And as I say, that seems to have worked reasonably well for me over the last 10 or so years. Every now and again, you do get the odd hiccup. But again, that's part and parcel of it. I mean, we're human beings. And most of the time you get on fine. And every now and again, as I say, you have issues, but you deal with them. And there's support there both from the VT trainers, officially from the advisors through NES Scotland, etc., but also within Clyde. There's a group of people that you can go to and discuss issues. Again, there's experienced clinicians there. There's people who've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So, I don't think there is a problem that hasn't been experienced by somebody somewhere within the group that you can pick up the phone to and have that conversation and say, oh, by the way, I've had this, I've seen this, I've done this, or my VGP has done this. How do I move forward? And yeah, it's been good.
That's great to hear. I mean, listen, I think having that network of professionals to go to, I would imagine, you had your practice on your own. It was probably sometimes a little bit, I think we've touched on this, it can be isolating at times to turn to in terms of advice on situations you've not been in before. So just having that kind of support structure again is probably, really beneficial for you. What would you say is the...
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Massive difference. And I'm sure there'll be people, listening to this podcast will be, maybe considering, those kinds of options in the future. What is the most rewarding part of your job? Dino? What are the things that excite you and gets you out of bed in the morning?
With regards to the VTP training, is the fact that I want to create a mini me.
That's good.
Yeah, don't tell my VTPs that. No, with regards to VT training, I like the idea of being able to pass on my 30-odd years worth of knowledge and experience to somebody else. I like the interaction that I have with them because you can see they have a thirst for knowledge and they engage. So that's why I've been doing VTP for, as I say, 10-odd years. This is what I'm likely to continue with VDP training going forward. So I like that aspect of it. Within dentistry, what gets me up in the morning is I like the variety of things. And, but I just like the interaction I have with my patients. Again, I'm fortunate because I've been in this practice for the last 25 odd years. So the patients that I've had, I've been looking after them for 25 years. You've seen them. I've grown with them. They've grown with me. I've seen the successes in their lives. I've seen the problems, the ups and the downs. And you become part of that. And you kind of feel privileged that you're being part of somebody's lives. And I know it sounds a bit corny and a bit cliche, but yeah, I mean, I just love my patients. I mean, I have patients that come in now. And I'm seeing grandchildren of patients. God, I'm getting old. I'm seeing grandchildren of the patients that I've been seeing. So yeah, it's lovely. And the amount of chocolates I get on, the sweets I get off my patients is amazing. I love it. That's what gets me out of bed. Forget everything else. Boxes of roses in Quality Street. I'm up for that.
But you're building relationships, and you've been building relationships for 25 years. So again, it's endearing to hear. It really is. So all credit, and being able to provide all your experience, must be excellent as well.
But we are lucky as dentists because we get to see our patients very, very frequently, and unlike GMPs, doctors who see their patients irregularly, or when they do see them, their patients are quite unwell and they're needing something. I see my patients 6 monthly, whether they're well or not. So you have that opportunity to develop a rapport, to develop a relationship, get to know them, get to understand them. And that does make your job a lot easier as time goes on looking after these people, because they come to trust you, they trust your judgment. And yeah, it's so much easier when you've got that. And this is one of the things that young dentists and inexperienced dentists and VDPs seem to struggle with, because they're seeing a patient once or twice a year. So they don't have an awful lot of time to develop that rapport. So it's quite difficult for them. But again, because if they're in a practice where that's been there a long time and they see the other patients, that starts to rub off and they know, oh, okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I will be able to develop a relationship with my patients because Dino's done it, and if Dino can do it, anybody can, so it's fine.
That's great to hear. What advice would you give aspiring dentists considering Clyde Munro for their VT year?
Definitely do it. I can think of no reason why you wouldn't want to. It makes sense, as I said. You've got the collective hive. You've got a big group of people, and not to find a point in it. You've actually got a group of people who give a shit about looking after you as an individual. So that's the biggest thing I would say about it. Yeah, they're supportive, good bunch of people to work with, ethical, conscientious. If I didn't feel so positive about Clyde Munro as a group, I would never have sold out to them. Because that was also important to me. I didn't just want to be yet another practice in somebody's massive portfolio, which is what can happen with other groups and cooperatives. So yeah, that's I wouldn't hesitate to go and do my VDP within a Clyde Munro group.
Dino, it's great to hear, but obviously they're your patients as well that you've built up over a number of years. So we want to make sure that they're being supported as well with all the right infrastructure. And as we know, AI is and digital dentistry is coming on very, very quick as well.
Oh God, yeah, tell me about it.
I know we've not touched on that, but yeah, I mean that must be unbelievable to see. Customers that have now been introduced to this technology that's there.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't there 10 years ago, and obviously you guys have had to get yourself trained and developed on those.
I mean, digital dentistry has transformed and is transforming dentistry almost on a daily basis. When I first qualified, digital dentistry wasn't even a concept. It wasn't even spoken about in hushed tones like implants were. I mean, when I qualified, implants were just about becoming. It was something that people spoke about, but you don't want to do that. It's too expensive, too complicated. But now implants are almost all daily practice for me, and I don't even think about it. And it's similar with digital dentistry. I mean, I first jumped on the digital dental bandwagon. I've been here probably coming up to about 10 years ago. And the way it's changed in that period of time, it's incredible what we're doing and what I can do with digital. It's mind-boggling. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what can be done. And I think as more materials come in, line both with 3D printing, 3D imaging, it's nuts. And what we can produce and what we can deliver to our patients is, words fail me.
It's fantastic. It really is. I mean, I remember I was having a podcast with Callum a couple of months ago, and I think we had a bit of a chuckle towards the end because he said when I said that we'll welcome back you on the show in a couple of months' time. He says it'll probably be me and my robot, Lewis, the way dentistry going. So, but yeah, he could be right. But yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, lots of people have said, going in and having their mouse screened, etc. Seeing it on large screen, it's like, wow, blimey. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal, and all credit to the industry for pushing those boundaries. But Dino, it's been great hearing your passion and obviously all of your experience and obviously what you have to offer. New VTs because that's going to be incredibly important throughout 2024 as obviously more people come in. But yeah, it's been absolutely great having you on the show. Obviously, apologies for getting your surname wrong.
No, not at all.
Although I got it right at the beginning. But yeah,
you did. I think it was the pressure.
Yeah, I think
pressure got to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm one of these guys. If you tell me something, it takes me 2 or 3 times. So I should have asked you at least twice at the beginning. But it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing all of your knowledge and everything else. And I hopefully look forward to having you back on at some point next year. Thanks so much for coming on.
No worries. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to coming back on. It'll be a good laugh.
Brilliant.
Thanks. Give me a chance to practice my name. Cheers. Speak later.